If you want to know everything about The Boys, be sure to watch the video. Hi there, Spider here. Recently, as most of you, I finished watching The Boys Season 3 and I thought that it was amazing. This show has a great story and a lot of unknown facts. That's why today I want to bring you The Boys Iceberg. Be sure to stay until the end so you know everything about The Boys. But before starting the video, give me a like, be sure to click the subscribe button and leave diabolical in the comments if you're a fan of the show. And obviously, this video contains spoilers about the show and the comic. Thank you so much for watching, and with that out of the way, let's begin! Tier 1, the tip of the iceberg. The Boys comic. The show is based on the comic of the same name, written by Garth Ennis and drawn by Derek Robertson. It's one of the most violent comics of all time. The show is directed by Eric Kripke. There also directed shows like Supernatural, where Soldier Boy's actor Jensen Ackles also appeared. Marvel and DC parodies. I think that it's more than obvious that both the comic and the show make fun of tendencies of both Marvel and DC comics. The Seven is a parody of the Justice League, Soldier Boy is a parody of Captain America, and so on. The Boys Diabolical. The Boys Diabolical is a spin-off show of The Boys that you can watch on Amazon Prime Video as well, that consists in animated shorts. Most of the episodes are not canon to the show, except for the very last one, where we can see the first mission that was assigned to Homelander, and it goes horribly wrong. Also, Justin Roiland, co-creator of Rick and Morty, directed one episode.
Fortnite.
Jack Quaid, the actor that plays Hughie, wanted the skins from The Boys in Fortnite. This hasn't happened and I don't think that it will, but if it happened, I think that we should get skins from Homelander, Butcher and Starlight. Although, we did have a collaboration of The Boys with an online game, and that was PUBG Mobile. You could get skins from Starlight, Homelander and Soldier Boy. Mother's Milk origin. In the show, MM's origin is fairly vague, and we don't know the reason why his nickname is Mother's Milk, but in the comics it's explained more extensively. Basically, the reason is that he needs to drink breast milk constantly, or else he starts to die. This is because he was exposed to Compound B even before he was born, because his mother worked at a factory that was previously used by Vogt. Suit details. Most of the suits in the show have a reason to be the way that they are. Homelander's suit is full of eagles and details that highlight his patriotism. Stormfront's suit has little details that give away her dark past. Starlight's suit was made with cheap fabric on purpose. The Deep suit was made to highlight his masculine attributes and make you feel uncomfortable. Butcher's clothes are designed to make him look like a scammer, or a person that you wouldn't trust, and so on. Also, I think that it is worth mentioning that Anthony Starr uses heels, so he looks taller. Female Stormfront. In the show, Stormfront's gender was changed to female, although this was not the only case in this show where the gender of a character was changed. Victoria Newman is Victor Newman in the comics, Madeline Stillwell is James Stillwell, and Grace Mallory is Greg Mallory in the comics. Although, if I'm being honest with you, most of these changes make the show better. And also, in the show, Stan Edgar was created to replace James Stillwell's role. Vogt. Vogt is a company behind the Seven and Compound B. Although a change that was made on the show is that Vogt is somehow a respectable company, and in the comic everyone thinks of Vogt as a joke. Also, another thing that is worth mentioning is that there is a Vogt channel on YouTube, and occasionally they post videos as if they were the real Vogt. Compound B. Compound B is the serum that was created by Frederick Vogt. It gives soups their powers, and also exists a variant named Temp B that is exclusive to the show. Something that is worth mentioning is that while in the show the boys waited 3 seasons to use Temp B, in the comics they do it almost right away. G Fuel. Another weird collaboration that the boys did was with G Fuel. For a limited time you were able to buy Compound B flavored G Fuel. Sadly, it is out of stock now. Herogasm. The 6th episode of the 3rd season is based on the comic of the same name, Herogasm, that reads like something that an 8-year-old that just learned what sex is would write. But, nevertheless, it has some interesting details that we'll talk about later. Censorship. The voice is heavily censored in some countries, and completely banned in some others. Also, some scenes couldn't be filmed because Amazon wouldn't allow them. One was of an unknown character running around the city completely naked, shouting that he could do whatever he wanted. And the other was a scene of two subs having sex in the middle of the street. Not like the scene of Homelander and Stormfront, where they do it in an alley. I mean, literally on the middle of the street. There's no doubt that the boys is constantly pushing the boundaries between what they can show and what they can't. Payback. Payback is the parody of the Avengers. They appear in both the comic and the show, although the members vary a bit in both. In the comics the members are Stormfront, Soldier Boy, Crimson Countess, Mind Droid, Tech Knight, Swallow, and Eagle the Archer. Some of these characters don't exist in the show. In the show, the members are Soldier Boy, Crimson Countess, Gunpowder, Black Noir, Swallow, Mindstorm, and the TNT Twins. And same case, some of these characters don't exist in the comic. Bald Huey. In the comics, Huey is bald. He was inspired in the actor Simon Pegg. The director wanted him to play Huey, but he was too old to play the character, so he plays Huey's father instead. But in one of the shorts of The Boys Diabolical, Simon Pegg voices Huey, which is a nice detail. Eric Kripke hates superheroes. In an interview, Eric Kripke, director of the show, confessed that he doesn't like superheroes, comparing them to real-life S-words. I can say the word, please forgive me. But a few days later, he apologized and said that now he likes them. I wonder what it could have happened. Fake blood. Obviously, all the violent scenes are filmed with fake blood, but the process is kinda long. Some of the actors revealed that it takes almost 3 hours to get covered in fake blood, and the sticky feeling and the scent of the blood lasts even weeks after they shot the scene. Aya Cash didn't want to play Stormfront. Aya Cash revealed in an interview that she felt bad playing Stormfront, mostly because of the dark past of her character. All of that is against her beliefs. Huey first kill reference. By this I don't mean the first time that Huey killed in the show, because that was translucent. I mean the first kill after he injected himself with Temp B. After Huey gets superpowers, he punches through the body of a soldier. This is a reference to the comic, where after getting temporal powers, he pierces through the body of a sub known as Blarney Cock. Tier 2. Below the surface. The female sign language. The actress that plays the female, Karin Fukuhara, created a unique sign language for Kimiko's role. It took her an entire year of preparation to be ready to play the character. Also, in the comics, the female doesn't have a name, unlike in the show where she is named Kimiko. Black Noir is Homelander's clone. I think that it's really well known that in the comics, Black Noir is Homelander's clone. That is a big twist of the comic, but taking into account everything that has happened in the show, it is unlikely that this will happen in the series. Starlight Assault original scene. In the show, Starlight is assaulted by the Deep, but in the comics it was Black Noir, Homelander, and A-Train. Also, in the comic is Homelander who forces Starlight to wear a more revealing outfit. Stan Lee. There is a character named The Legend that appears in both the show and the comic. His job is basically the same in both. He writes the stories of the subs that Vox sells to the public. This character is a reference to Stan Lee, although a major change that was done in the show is that in the comic, the legend is a midget, and in the show, he has a normal stature, and in the comics, he had a relationship with Queen Maeve, thing that appears that it didn't happen in the show. Jack the Jupiter. Jack the Jupiter is a character that only appears in the comic. He is part of the Seven. In the show, he was replaced by Translucent. The creator of the series didn't want him in the show because everyone found him repulsive. Jack the Jupiter is a parody of Martian Manhunter. Also, even if he doesn't appear in the show, there is a small reference of Jack the Jupiter in the 7th episode of the 2nd season, when Huey and Lamplighter are watching porn. Deleted scenes. The show has a lot of deleted scenes that actually were filmed, and you can watch them if you want. You just have to go to the bonus content that is already on the same page when you're watching an episode. Most of these scenes are inconsequential, but there are some that add a bit of extra depth to the characters. Love Sausage. Love Sausage is a character that appears in both the comic and the show, although a major difference is that in the comic he is essential to find a weakness to defeat the Supes, while in the show he is more of a joke. Wolverine. Both Karl Urban and Anthony Starr, respective actors of Butcher and Homelander, have been massively fan-cast to play Wolverine for the MCU. Anthony Starr said in an interview that he thinks that Karl Urban is more fit to play Wolverine. Also, as a bonus fact, The Boys is not the first project where Karl Urban and Anthony Starr worked together. Both actors appeared in Xena. Gal Gadot. The 6th episode of the 3rd season starts with a joke, mocking the video that Gal Gadot did when the pandemic started. Eric Kripke, the same director of The Boys, also directed the live-action version of the comic Preacher. Also, the Preacher comic book was written by the same writer of The Boys comic, Garth Ennis. Teenage Kicks. Do you remember Blarney Cock? Well, he was part of a team named Teenage Kicks, that is a parody of the Teen Titans. Pop Claw is part of this team and doesn't have any connection to A-Train, while in the show they are a couple. The Teenage Kicks have not appeared in the show, and we don't know if they will. Queen Maeve's son. Remember that I told you that in the comics, Queen Maeve and the Legend had a relationship? Well, they also have a son, and it is none other than Blarney Cock, the Supe that Huey killed by accident. Black Noir and Huey deleted scene in Herogasm. In the comic Herogasm, Black Noir puts his thumb inside Huey's butt. This was something that left Huey traumatized for a long period of time. Tier 3. Dark Waters. G-Men. The G-Men is a group of superheroes in the comics, parody of the X-Men. The leader of this group is John Godolkin, reference to Charles Xavier. He kidnaps children and injects them with Compound B, and also abuses them. A bad joke about the X-Men. In the show they have not appeared officially, but we have a few references. In the very first episode of the 2nd season, we can see that the name of the G-Men is in a news channel. And in the first episode of the 3rd season, Victoria Newman names a few members of the G-Men. And Silver Kincaid appears in the show, although her nationality was changed. Recently, they confirmed a spin-off named Gen B, that might be the show's version of the G-Men. Butcher killing Homelander's son. In the comics, Homelander's son killed Becca when he was born, and Butcher killed the baby in the same instant, which means that Ryan doesn't exist in the comic. Also, in the comics, technically, this was Black Noir's son, instead of Homelander's, because it was Black Noir who assaulted Butcher's wife, pretending to be Homelander. Butcher is Frank Castle. Yeah, in the comics, Butcher is pretty much a copy of Frank Castle, aka Punisher. If you put a skeleton on his shirt, you can't tell them apart. That is just another thing that makes me prefer the show over the comic. Spider-Man reference. In the 5th episode of the 3rd season, there's a reference to Spider-Man that is impossible to miss, quoting the famous Uncle Ben phrase, but with a funny twist.
With great power comes the absolute certainty that you'll turn it away.
C-word. In the show, Butcher uses the word "cunt" a lot, and is one of the traits of his character. He says this word a lot in the comics as well, but not as often. Pepsi parody. In the 4th episode of the 3rd season, A-Train films a commercial where he stops violence between people and the police with a soda. This is a parody of a commercial where Kendall Jenner does almost the same, but with Pepsi. Daredevil. There is a reference to Daredevil in the 1st episode of the 2nd season. A character named Blindspot appears, that pretty much is killed by Homelander, or at the very least, deafened. Tiny Butcher. After the scene where Butcher says,
Oi.
A lot of people made memes of Butcher as a tiny person. Tiny versions of all characters came, kinda weird, but funny. Filming controversies. As I previously mentioned, The Boys is constantly pushing the limits on what they can show. The series is filmed in Toronto, Canada, although in post-production they make it look like New York. The thing is that there is a scene where Homelander teases a lot of people with his ray vision. It was hard to film, especially because of a similar tragedy that happened a year before in Toronto, where a man named Alec Minasian killed a lot of people while driving a van. So it is understandable why a lot of people were uncomfortable while this scene was being filmed. Scourge. Karl Urban, the actor that plays Butcher, also played Scourge in Thor Ragnarok. He also appeared in Lord of the Rings. He plays Yomer.
Yummers.
Eomir, a great actor for sure. Terror. In both the show and the comics, Butcher has a dog named Terror, although his participation in the show is really limited. He is a recurring character in the comics, until he's killed by Jack the Jupiter. Don't worry though, Butcher got his revenge. Butcher will kill the boys. In the comics, after the defeat of Homelander, Butcher basically loses meaning in his life, so the last thing that he does is killing every member of the boys, except for Huey. Huey ends up killing Butcher instead. After that, Huey lives happily ever after with Starlight. It is unclear if this could happen in the show, but it might. Little Nina. Little Nina appears in both the show and the comic, although a major difference is that Little is literal in the comic, while in the show she has a normal stature. Also, they toned down the character a lot in the series. In the comic she's a bit more explicit. Also, if you're wondering, she is played by the actress Katia Winter. Soldier Boy comic book version. In the comics, Soldier Boy is a legacy character, unlike in the show where it's just one person. What I mean by this is that Soldier Boy in the comics is a mantle that multiple characters held. The first Soldier Boy died in the Second World War. In 1950, another hero took the mantle of Soldier Boy, although this one wasn't that relevant and probably died of natural causes. Or he's just really old by now. And the latest version of Soldier Boy in the comics was killed by Butcher. Honestly, I prefer the Soldier Boy of the show by a lot. In the comics, Soldier Boy is not that relevant. Ant-Man killing Thanos reference. In the very first episode of the 3rd season, we can see a character that can shrink on command, named Termite. This character is an obvious reference to Ant-Man. We see this dude going inside someone's urethra, and then accidentally killing him by sneezing and turning into normal stature again. This is a reference to the meme about Ant-Man killing Thanos by shrinking, going inside his butt, and then becoming bigger. The funny thing about this is that after this episode was released, Marvel responded to this to having Ant-Man himself answering to this question in the Avengers campus.
Let me address the elephant in the room. I've heard a lot of chatter out there asking why I didn't shrink down, go in, and kill Thanos in a really creative way. First of all, gross. Secondly, it's much more complicated than that. Allow me to explain.
If only we had the time.
Invincible live action. Robert Kirkman, creator of the comic Invincible, revealed that after the success of the animated Amazon series, they are now working on a live action version. There are rumors that the same crew that are working on The Boys could potentially bring this Invincible live action to life. Also, they say that it will be different than the animated show. So, even if this sounds worrying, we have to wait and see. Tier 4. The Abyss. Homelander caused 9/11. Yeah, the plane crash scene that we see in the show played a bit different in the comics. In the comic, because a Homelander messed up, the plane ends up crashing in the Brooklyn Bridge, the same day that the 9/11 happened. Things that for obvious reasons they couldn't show in the Amazon series. Stormfront is Homelander's mother. There is a really strong theory that says that in the show, Stormfront is Homelander's mother, and we have some proof to back these claims up. In the show, Soldier Boy mentions that he founded Herogasm with a soup named Liberty. We know that Stormfront's name used to be Liberty, so that means that Soldier Boy and Stormfront had some kind of relationship in the past. Also, in the comic, it was mentioned that they used Stormfront's DNA to create Homelander. In the show, it was Soldier Boy's sperm. But we have more proof. Thanks to Ryan, we know that the children of Soups get the same powers as their parents. Ryan having the same powers as Homelander, and the only Soup that can fly besides Homelander is Stormfront. Honestly, I'm on board with this theory. This will make Homelander more of a punching bag, so I'm good with this. Homelander eating a baby. One of the most, or we could argue that the most violent and twisted moment in the comics is when Homelander eats a baby, although it is worth mentioning that this was Black Noir. Anyway, it is unlikely that we'll see this scene in the show. Evil Superman trope. The evil Superman trope is nothing new at this point, but some people might argue that even though Homelander was not the first evil Superman clone, he might be the one that popularized this trope. Homelander vs Omni-Man. There's a really cool animation done by Screw Attack of what will happen if Homelander and Omni-Man engage in a fight. It is a really cool animation and I think that you should watch it. If you haven't, that is. Or maybe you should watch it again, it is really cool. Soldier Boy and Homelander sex scene. In the comic, Soldier Boy's first apparition was in Herogasm. In the comic, he is more of Homelander's lapdog, and he does everything that Homelander says. The first thing that we see that he does is having sex with Homelander. They are not related in the comics, but god, talk about having Oedipus complex at the infinitum. Dude had sex with both of his parents, if you think about it, even if it was indirectly. Homelander kills Queen Maeve. In the comics, Homelander kills Queen Maeve, while she was trying to save Starlight. I think that we could have seen this in the show, but it didn't happen, and now it feels that Queen Maeve's storyline is finished. It wouldn't have much sense bringing her back just to kill her. Homelander saying the N-word. In the show, Homelander is more of a misanthropist, meaning that he hates everyone and thinks higher of himself. Well, in the comic, he says the N-word in a lot of occasions. It seems that the comic book version of Homelander has more in common with Stormfront. Anthony Starr arrested. Anthony Starr, the actor that plays Homelander, was arrested in Spain for assaulting a young chef. It is said that he broke a glass bottle on the chef's head, and he had to pay around $5,000 and other fees. Now this clip has more sense. Bald Ashley. In the show we can see that Ashley goes bald progressively because all of the stress that she has to endure in her job. And, well, Ashley also exists in the comics. Well, kinda. In the comics, she is named Jessica Bradley. She has a relationship with James Stilwell, who, as I previously mentioned, appears in the show as Stanley Edgar. However, after Homelander takes over the White House, but is ultimately defeated by Butcher, James Stilwell blames everything on Jessica. And after a panic attack, she pulls all of her hair in one instant, unlike in the show where she gets progressively bald. Soup's weakness. In the comics, it's revealed that uranium bullets is the weakness of every soup out there, and every human with this substance can kill them. So, let's wait and see if this also happens in the show. Fandom toxicity. There is to no one's surprise that fandoms can be a little bit toxic these days, and the Boys fandom is no exception, using the show to defend all kinds of political ideas, attack other people's opinions, and thinking that they are smarter for watching this show. That reminds me of another fandom. Bugged is the real villain. This is not to justify any of Homelander's actions, or any other soup for that matter. But heroes in this universe were created with the purpose of making money, no matter the lengths that they have to go. It is not about doing the right thing, all is about ratings and popularity. Homelander is a piece of garbage, but he was ultimately created because of corporate greed. So, if someone is to blame in the first place, is bugged. We live in the Boys universe. Let me close this video with a warning. We have like 15 superhero movies annually, all produced by the same greedy studios, that all they seek is money at all costs. The same actors that appear in those movies also appear in insurance commercials, car commercials, and all sorts of publicity. We go to the parks that they promote. They promise us eternal bliss, while they are not different than this, or this, or this, or this. If people with real powers existed, how different would they be than Homelander? Next time that you wish you could fly, that you had powers, just remember how lucky we are to live in a reality where superpowers are just fiction. This is not to say that I don't enjoy superhero stuff or the things that I just criticized. I'm just trying to scare you, okay? A shout out to Flower Power, Epic Craft Mine, McKinley Green, Phoenix Explains, Tofu Stack, Alfonso Suarez, Marble 3K, The Emerald, Pablo Oviedo, Red X. A special shout out to Bimto for making this fan art. If you want to make a fan art about me, I'll feature it in a future video. Also, this is the first fan art that I ever get about me, so thank you so much Bimto, I appreciate it a lot. If you want a shout out in my next video, give me a like, be sure to click the subscribe button and leave and your favorite character of the show in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching and bye bye.